these videos. You know, fuck it. Just go to the intro.
This is only the beginning of my true resurrection.
Arriving on the nightmare, praying for a dream.
True resurrection.
So there's one thing that's been on people's minds considering everything that's going on. Most people are trying to stay home, stay safe.
Stay home.
Stay safe, stay home.
Stay safe, stay home.
Stay safe, stay home. Period.
Stay safe, stay home.
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 Stay safe, stay home. Stay safe, stay home. Stay safe, stay home. Stay safe, stay home. Stay safe, stay home. Stay safe.
It's been 11 weeks in the chamber. Productivity has come to mind. You see videos all the time. People are getting back on track where exercise is concerned. They're getting their word count in. They're querying all the agents. Basically trying to do everything they've been procrastinating up until this point, because the only excuse that they had at this point was, if I only had the time. Now that we have all the time, we don't know what to do with it. Gabe made a video, you might know his channel, on Bookish Pixie, and he talks about how even though he's had all of this time, he doesn't really know what to do with it, and he's still kind of dealing with the mental challenges, writer's block, procrastination, but also a mixture of anxiety and depression, which is completely understandable considering the sequence of events this book seems to be taking. And it kind of brings to mind the question of productivity. How much do we have to be doing in order to consider ourselves productive?
What the hell are you doing? I'm kicking my ass! Do you mind?
How much do we have to push ourselves to the grind before we give ourselves permission to be able to take a break or actually have a real excuse as far as why we're not getting things done? And there's a lot of controversy when it comes to the rise and grind culture and the way of living and the rush, which seems to be every single day, whether it's exercise and work or writing or school, which is kind of why I stopped listening to the whole rise and grind mentality. It's not that I completely put it off, and it's not that I completely disbelieve in it, and it's not that I completely lost trust in it. It's just, it comes off kind of biased. I'm huge on procrastination, especially when it comes to my books, and I've been telling myself that I was going to get things done, and I was going to query agents, and I'm going to get my book published this year, among other things that I had in mind. I started learning a language, I wanted to read more, I got my website up, I wanted to make more videos. Because I'm an essential worker, I actually don't have all of the free time in order to be doing all of this stuff. But I had 2 months full of free time last year when I kind of took hiatus from work. It was kind of nice waking up and just being able to focus on the writing. I originally planned on just taking 1 month off, polishing my resume, and trying to find a better job versus finding 2 jobs and working 2 jobs, which is absolutely exhausting, and I really don't want to do it anymore. The 1 month turned into 2 months, and I found that I was not only procrastinating the writing, I was not only putting off exercise and dieting and making all the changes in my personal life that I felt were necessary and that I have been wanting to do for a good few years now, just to be a healthier, happier human being. But I was also procrastinating getting a job and getting work. I've never really been the lazy type. I've never been the type to want to stay home and just binge watch Netflix all day. I'm that kind of person that I'll watch a movie for an hour, hour and a half. If I spend more than 3 hours or 4 hours in one place trying to binge watch TV, I get a massive migraine. I need to keep moving. So on all my days off, even when I was working 2 jobs, most of the time that I was, what little time I did have that I got off, I was usually going out with friends. I was going out with people, I was hanging out with my boyfriend. So I've always been moving. I went from working 73 hours to working 65 hours to working 60 hours a week between 2 jobs to having all the free time I wanted, and it was like I'd been working myself to the bone, and it just all caught up to me. I was exhausted. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to leave the house. I had to literally talk myself and coax myself into getting up and going to the library in order to do some research. All of this time that I thought that I would want nothing more than to just stay home for a few weeks or a month until I found another job to be able to focus on my writing. But I didn't get anything done. I started a new book because I thought that was the problem. I thought that my works were just all stagnant and I'd been working on them so long. I was exhausted. I was bored. I needed something new. It turns out that wasn't the case. I ended up starting not one, 3 new projects. I did decide that after I found a full-time job and I was just working 40 hours a week, it was so nice being able to have days off in the week because I was so used to working 6-7 days in a row that I decided that I was going to spend the time that I normally would put towards having that second job to writing, to exercising, to the video. There was so much that I wanted to get done. But the first 5 months were an extreme struggle for me. And I think it's just because I told myself that I had to get so much done in a day. I was putting so much pressure on myself that I wasn't really giving myself any slack. And then I kind of felt into another slump and had to wonder, like, why can't I do this? Why can't I rise and grind? I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. I've never been one to want to waste time. And this slump kind of got me down because it made me feel like I was a failure. It made me feel like I wasn't doing enough and I wasn't enough, and no way was I going to be a successful writer if I'm just sitting on my ass moping. But that's all I wanted to do, and not only did this just completely force me to hit a wall and reconsider things, but it also forced me to reconsider this whole rise and grind culture that we've got going. And I don't want to demean the words or motivational speakers out there that constantly tell us we need to work our asses off, because I believe it is true. But I feel like they're not really telling you how you need to work your ass off. One, because everyone has a different dream, everyone has a different lifestyle, it's going to be different for everybody. But I think that the darker side of it is that the second reason might be because if that person fails or that person doesn't get up to complete that challenge and meet that standard that you've set, that we need to make every minute count and every hour count without a break, without fail, then they feel inadequate, and it's not your fault and it's not anything that you said or that you told them. I could be completely wrong, but I really don't see how you could work that 24-hour lifestyle, even for years at a time, without getting burned out and without getting exhausted. Because eventually it is going to affect your work. It's not just going to affect your motivation to get work done. It's going to affect your work yourself. Your characters are going to be stagnant and bitter. The writing style is going to be sloppy and all over the place. And I had the one job when I was working 70, 75 hours a week. I had one job where in my free time, and it was a very relaxed atmosphere, in my free time I was able to bring my computer and be able to write. Have a cup of coffee in the morning and be able to get some writing done before the customers started coming in regularly. I was not getting any work done, and what little work I was getting done, I was never happy with. But I've kind of been reworking my mindset and reworking the whole attitude of rise and grind and productivity. And what I've learned is it's not so much you need to dive in with both feet. I feel like it's more helpful, especially with most people in today's world and today's economy and how everything is run, to ease into it. I feel like it would be a lot easier for people to maintain their exercise routine if they just convince themselves to start at 10-15 minutes a day, go for a jog in the morning, and that's it. It's easier to convince a writer to just write so many words a day, because after you've done this, you already feel like you've accomplished something. You feel like you've done something, and that kind of tricks your mind into actually liking work. I know that sounds really, really weird. After a little bit, you add on a little bit more at a time, and it kind of coaxes your mind into actually liking and enjoying the work. You don't need a cookie after every activity in order to enjoy it. We are capable of convincing ourselves and retraining our brain in order to like this kind of work. When I started writing, I just wrote nonstop. I wrote as much as I could in a day because I loved the writing. It wasn't until I became an adult and I had aspirations for a career and I wanted to get it going and I wanted to get everything published and everything out there, I started taking it a little more seriously and I started to see it as work the less I got done. And then I fell into a slump of not wanting to write at all until I started coaxing myself to just do a chapter a day. Even if it's not a full chapter, half a chapter, and then kind of like talk myself into doing something else. Even if I didn't finish a chapter, I did something else on the side. That's another reason why we see a lot of these morning routines where the first thing they get up, they say that they make the bed. It kind of like sets your brain into work mode. It's also like a reward factor. It's really hard to explain. I promise I'll do more research on this. Sometimes it's easier to coax yourself into doing little things at a time and easing into a productive schedule instead of just telling yourself that if you have 24 hours, you need to get as much done in 24 hours as possible. Because not only are you going to be burned out and tired, you're not going to really like anything that you are doing. I'm still working a 9 to 5, but while maintaining this 9 to 5, I find that not every day I'm up for exercising. Not every day I'm going to get a chapter in here or 2 or 3 chapters in when I want to. Not every day am I going to be able to have the time or the energy to clean my whole apartment at once. Because, I mean, we're writers. If you think about just the whole book and the finished project, and you realize that you're not going to be able to get that done in a day, in a week, I mean, you could, it's just gonna suck. But if you think about the amount of work that you've got to go, it's going to distract you from actually getting it done piece by piece by piece by piece, because that's the only way you're actually going to finish it. Can't write a book in a day. And then you're going to have days when you don't want to do anything at all. You're going to have mental health days where you just need to take a step back and just quiet everything. It's about the little things and succeeding in the little ways that actually move you closer to that finish line. So it wouldn't beat yourself up if you have days where you don't get anything done and you have no motivation to get anything done, because that's going to happen also. But as far as the rise and grind culture goes, we could try to coax ourselves to work a little bit more, procrastinate a little bit less, but we don't need to kill ourselves in doing it.